May I, with the permission of the Chair, invite Colonel S.K. Parashar, who is the former President of Cardiological Society of India. Currently, he is the Chairman of the Non-Invasive Cardiology Division at the Metro Heart Institute in New Delhi and Noida. This morning, Colonel Parashar joins us to speak on the contribution of ECHO in atrial fibrillation for the next 13 minutes.
Well, Mr. Chairman, ladies and gentlemen, the talk given to me is the contribution of ECHO in atrial fibrillation. Now, as you know, it is the most frequently encountered arrhythmia, prevalence about 1% in general population, and increases to about 3.8% in patients more than 60 years of age. And now, with increasing age span, the prevalence has gone up to 9% in more than 80 years of age. But this is less applicable to our country, where rheumatic heart disease is still common, and we see a lot of atrial fibrillations even in the second or a third decade. And it is a very potent risk factor for ischemic stroke. A low atrial fibrillation is an isolated electrophysiological abnormality in absence of a predisposing cause of underlying structural lesion, and as the name indicates, a secondary AF is related to a large number of underlying heart disease or systemic illness. And now we also see asymptomatic atrial fibrillation, that almost about 33% of patients are not aware of it as long as the ventricular rate is within normal limits. And there are other symposia also on atrial fibrillation, but one of the proposed clinical classification of atrial fibrillation has been a first diagnosed atrial fibrillation that is irrespective of duration and severity, paroxysmal atrial fibrillation, self-terminating usually within 48 hours or extending up to a week, persistent atrial fibrillation lasts more than 7 days or requires termination with drugs or a cardioversion. A long-standing persistent atrial fibrillation lasts more than 1 year and needs a rhythm control strategy. And finally, a permanent atrial fibrillation which is accepted by the patient and the physician that nothing much can be done and various other control interventions are not further pursued. So why is atrial fibrillation so important for us? Number one, it leads to a decreased quality of life. There is an impaired exercise tolerance because of a reduction in the cardiac output. There is a worsening of the pre-existing cardiac condition, possibly because of many factors including tachycardia. There is a risk of thromboembolism, that is stroke, almost doubling of the cardiovascular morbidity and mortality, and if not controlled, it can lead to a significant LV dysfunction. Now, there are various stroke risk index factors have been proposed depending upon, and some points have been given like congestive heart failure, hypertension, age, diabetes, and prior stroke, and a point below 1 is usually good, and a modified score has included other things like a vascular disease, age 65 to 74, and a point less than 2 is usually good. That means they are less prone to various other complications. The higher the score, the higher is a poor risk index in these cases. So now, what is the role of echocardiography in these situations? Whether a transthoracic 3D echo, transesophageal, all of them are important, but I think most of the importance has been given to a transesophageal echo. And the role of echocardiography can be more definitive and potentially curative therapeutic approach, evaluation of structural lesions, because structural lesions can cause atrial fibrillation, assessment of left atrium. And when you see the left atrium, that means LA size, LA volume, LA function. All of them can be determined by echo. Actually, LA size has now been given less importance. This was more popular about 2 decades back or so, but now with the advent of LA volume index, it has gained less importance because it can expand eccentrically, but still an increase in size by average 5 millimeters was making a person about 39% chance of adverse outcome. And this is some of the largest left atria. We see much more, we see going up to 90 millimeters or so, one of the giant atrium we can see. And LA volume index is a much more superior method than dimension in predicting the outcomes in atrial fibrillation, and it can be very well determined by a two-dimensional echo. An increased LA volume index, the more chances for persistence of atrial fibrillation, thromboembolism, and heart failure. And though 2D echo in the majority of the places can get it, but a 3D echo has got a better accuracy and reproducibility. Now we come to LA function. It is very well recognized that a global LA strain, which is getting a lot of importance, all functions as in reservoir phase, conduit phase and contractile phase can be evaluated, and a global LA strain can even predict a likelihood of an embolic phenomena. Then a transesophageal, a risk stratification, which is a very important role in these situations in an echo, that identification, risk stratification of LA and LA thrombus, and atrial fibrillation, as you know, contributes to about 50% of the cardioembolic source, and one of the primary factors is a spontaneous contrast echo, that is known as a smoke in LA, which can lead to 5 to 12.5% embolic risk per year, and seen in about 60% of cases in atrial fibrillation, and it can be very confidently diagnosed by a transesophageal echo, and this, as you know, is a precursor, and this is one of the type of a spontaneous contrast echo which we see in our country, but usually associated with a mitral stenosis. So you can see this is a contrast echo. You can see the whole smoke in the left atrium. Then a left atrial appendage thrombus detection by a transesophageal echo almost touches about 95 to 100%. It is such a sensitive technique, and you can see one of the, again, is ischemic heart disease with a ball wall thrombus, and you can see with a spontaneous contrast echo. So these are some of the cases in which a part of our talk is only based that we see this sort of a thing which may not be well seen in a sort of a Western population. And then, of course, an LA appendage thrombus can be very well diagnosed. No waste, no time. So, and then besides all these factors where an echo can play a part, LA appendage function is equally important. A poorer the LA, it is a very important contributor to thrombus formation. The poorer the LA appendage function, the greater the chances of a thrombus, and a pulse Doppler velocity at a method, a peak velocity greater than 50 centimeters per second usually indicates a good left atrial appendage function and is less prone to develop a thrombus. And here you see it is almost about a 1 meter per second, while a low velocity of less than 20 centimeters per second contributes to a spontaneous contrast echo and a thrombus formation. And as you see, this one of our patients, there was markedly reduced left atrial appendage velocity. So most of these things can be well diagnosed by an echocardiogram. So some of the echo predictors of LA thrombus are an increased LA volume index, a moderate to severe LV dysfunction, higher risk index score, a left ventricular ejection fraction, and a LA volume index ratio, which has just recently come in literature, less than 1.5, has got a 100% sensitivity for LA thrombus. However, specificity was about 56%, and a decreased global LA strain, less than 15% or so, has got a very good echo predictor for thrombus formation. And the pathogenesis of a thrombus in these cases is a dual remodeling, and electrical remodeling leads to a persistence of arrhythmia, molecular changes lead to oxidative injury, and a structural remodeling leads to a myopathic state, and this myopathic state can lead to LLA appendage function. So, in a reverse fashion, what are the summary of the factors not favoring an appendage thrombus? A normal LA volume index, normal LA size, normal LV function, the ratio more than 1.5, and a normal LA function. And some centers even say that if these factors are present, possibly a transesophageal echo may not be required before any procedure or a cardiovascular, but that is a matter of debate. And the prognostic role of stress echo is mainly to determine a coronary artery disease. A combination of the two has got a very poor prognosis. Coming to the role in management, identification of underlying structural disease, identifying eco-predictors for thromboembolism, which we discussed, and TE guided cardioversion, which has come in a recently, which has been gaining some importance, and because a normal conventional method used to have almost about 4 weeks of anticoagulation before you could cardiovert them. But now a TE-guided method has been proposed by various centers, especially for symptomatic patients who have got a low risk of thromboembolic phenomena. Low risk means no LA thrombus, no spontaneous contrast echo, and a LA appendage velocity more than 25 centimeters per second. It has been clinically validated and has been validated by various studies. And the proposed method is that if there are no risk of embolic phenomena, then if there is, you do a TEE, and if there is no LA thrombus, you give a low molecular weight heparin and an oral anticoagulant till you anticoagulate the patient and give a cardioversion followed by a 4 weeks of anticoagulation. And so that means it is a rapid cardioversion, you don't have to wait. But if it shows that LA thrombus, then there is a 3 weeks of therapeutic anticoagulation is required. The advantages of a TEE guided cardioversion is a rapid resolution of symptoms because you have given an early cardioversion, rapid recovery of atrial mechanical function, higher rates of a sinus conversion because you have done an earlier thing, shorter duration of anticoagulation therapy, thereby reducing the risk of bleeding, shorter time to cardioversion. The problem is that why do you still want to give a 4 weeks of anticoagulation is because very small thrombi may be missed by a transesophageal echo. All lobes of LAA may not be well imaged unless you do a 3-dimensional TE, and there is presence of an atrial stunning. As soon as you give a cardioversion, there is an atrial stunning, and this atrial stunning in an immediate post-cardioversion phase can lead to thrombus because it has been shown that a transmitral A wave, which is an indication of LA contractility, may not return to normal for another about 3 to 4 weeks after cardioversion. The proof is that this was one of our patients, a proved case of constrictive pericarditis, who was to undergo surgery but had a heart rate of 170 with a flutter fibrillation. So they thought of cardioverting him, but somehow, I don't know why, anticoagulants were not given, and immediately after a cardioversion, the patient went into a state of shock and developed multiple thrombi in the right atrium and the left atrium, and this led to pulmonary embolism. So that is why an anticoagulation is very important. So AF ablation, of course, we will not go into detail, but a pre-procedure selection of suitable patients, there should be no significant mitral valve disease, no severe LA dilatation because it indicates chronicity of AMS, and a poor response to RFA. A proximal pulmonary vein anatomy can be seen, though CT MRI are more useful, but an experienced TEE can give rise to a good visualization. A TEE, irrespective of rhythm, INR, a risk of thrombus is still being utilized, and to see for LA appendage thrombus. Post-procedure is mainly, a main issue is detection of complications, early complications like tamponade, late complications like pulmonary vein stenosis, though its incidence is decreasing, and reassessment of left atrium. Lastly, there are some unsolved questions. What is there a genuine relation between left atrial volume index and a thromboembolism? What is the precise role of 3D echo in evaluating various factors and forecasting other predictors of embolism? And LVEF and LA volume index are still not incorporated in the risk stratification scores, but a trial which is going on that ENGAGE trial is mainly focusing on these factors. So to conclude, if atrial fibrillation continues to be a disabling arrhythmia, the main risk is thromboembolism. ECHO plays a significant role in diagnosis, prognosis, risk stratification and management, and its role is crucial in guiding complex interventions. Patients of AF with a score of less than 1, normal LV systolic function, normal LA volume index, ratio of LVEF to LA volume of more than 1.5 are least likely to have LA appendage thrombus. Contrary of expectations, probably except LV dysfunction, no other echo parameters are included in stroke risk prediction. As such, more research is needed. Hence, the time to catch up is now with more studies. Thank you very much for your
Thank you, Colonel Parashar. Please have your seat with the chairperson.